This is the fourth video for the fundamentals of DTM for version 1.3. In this video, we'll be going over data simulation via auto data changes, CSV file playback, and scripting. We'll also briefly touch on how creating a command for a master or client is similar to how you'll do auto data changes. I've gone ahead and loaded my 3 of each workspace, which I've showed in a previous video. To get started, I'm going to go ahead and display the data points of one of my 101 devices. This will give us a reference for later. So you right-click, Show Data Points. That will add a pane to the middle of the DTM Administrator tool and allow you to see what data points are contained in that device. To add a auto data change node to that specific device, you will right-click, Simulate, Add Auto Data Changes. This will bring up a configuration window. Here you can change the name of the auto data change node, add a description, select the devices that it applies to, look at the period in which the data will be changed, and change the percentage of the data being changed per interval. By default, we have filled out some points. Now, if you'd like, you can customize this yourself. To dump it all, you could click Reset, or you can drag individual points here to this trash can. If you decide that you only want certain data groups, you can come in here and select the data groups that you'd like. Or, alternatively, you can drag points from the points list that you would like back into the section here, and those will only be the points that this is changing. Afterward, you can click OK, and you'll see a little hammer appear underneath the device where you put the auto data change node. If you'd like to apply auto data change to multiple devices, you can go up to a node that they're all underneath. For this example, I have 3 S101 devices underneath the 101 slaves folder. If I right-click on the folder, Simulate, Add Auto Data Changes, it'll ask me if we want to do a default data points for all 3 devices. I'll say yes. Again, you could drag in the points as you like, insert different groups, and set it however you like. Now, when you configure this one, it will apply to all the devices. This is where the select device comes in. If you decide you only want to do 2 or 3 of the devices, you can keep them all checked or check them as you'd like. This is very helpful when you have hundreds of devices and you decide that you only want to do, say, 99 out of the 100 or 75 out of the 100. When you click OK now, it'll apply the hammer to the folder level, but also if you drill down, you'll see a new auto data change node at the bottom of each device this applies to. You can tell it is a reference because it has a little arrow. One interesting feature of auto data changes is you can apply an auto data change node not just across similar protocols, say the 101s we just did, but also across multi-protocols. So I'm just going to go to my servers folder, which has 101, 104, 61850, DNP, Modbus, and TASI. If I right-click, Simulate, Add Auto Data Changes, it'll ask if you want to apply them to all 18 devices. Say yes again. The main configuration is the same across all protocols, but if you need protocol specifics, we have different tabs allowing you to access the different protocols. Again, hitting OK, a hammer will be applied to the top level node, and then if you drill down into the individual devices, you will see the reference beneath it. To run an auto data change node, you can just right-click and say Start Auto Data Changes. When I do this, you will have seen that these values are changing every 5 seconds because that's the duration that I have set. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Now that we've finished with auto data change, we're going to talk about the second form of data change in DTM, and that's CSV playback. CSV playback allows you to configure specific states on devices that you'd like to trigger within a certain time or in a certain order. This is much more flexible than if you did auto data changes, which generally just counts up and toggles inputs on and off. This can be done by going to the device that you would like to put a CSV file on, right-click, simulate, add CSV file, then you'll need to go and locate the CSV file you need. Since I'm on a 104 device, I'll choose 104, and then click OK. This will bring up the configuration window. There's two things you can do in the configuration window. The first is you can set how frequently you'd like to play back the states. So would you like 1 second in between each, 2 seconds, etc. The second thing you can address is, would you like the states to start over after it reaches its final state? Meaning if you have 4 states, when it gets to the 4th state, would you like the CSV playback to stop, or would you like it return to state 1 and continue on? That's done via this checkbox. Go ahead and click OK. Now if I scroll down, you can see that we have added a CSV file down here. If you right click on that, you can do a next state, which will allow you to choose which state you'd like to go into. You can right click, say apply next state, which will just move it on to the next state. Or you can right click and do start playback, which it will cycle through the 4 states that I had, and then it will stop. Now, if I had selected playback, it would continuously cycle through those states. Just like auto data changes, you can come to a folder level node, right click, simulate, add CSV file. I'm going to use the same CSV file. And then apply this to a more global level. When I hit OK, it's going to tell me that it needs to have a unique name, which makes sense because I already created a CSV file. So I'll just say _2. Now when you hit OK, it will apply 1 to the top level node where you're at, and then linking nodes to each device it applies to below. You can still come down to the bottom level node, right click, and do the same steps as before, or if you'd like to do them all at once, you can go to the CSV file and do the exact same thing from the top level node. This will make the apply next state apply to all 3 devices rather than just the one. If you'd like to know exactly what data points are changing, you can do show data points, and that will show you the data points that are changing in all the states, as the top level node will reference all 3 devices. So then if I right click and say apply next state, you'll be able to see the values changing without having to dig through the points list itself and find out exactly where the points are that are changing. The last thing we're going to be talking about in this video when it comes to data changes is scripting. Now, scripts can be the most flexible out of all the ways to change your data, but can be a little bit more complex. To add a script, you can right-click on any node in the workspace, though we advise you should put it close to the devices that it is changing, just for organization's sake. And then you go to Insight, Add Script. You'll want to name the script. I'll name it 104 Data Changes. Click OK. This will bring up a JavaScript editor. The best way to get points into this JavaScript editor is just simply drag and drop them from the points list. Now that we have the point, we can change the name. So the syntax for this is insight tag, which is the variable type, variable name, and then what point it maps to. Let's change the variable name so it's not something so complicated. From here, you can use that variable name to set values. So, if I run this JavaScript, we should see that point turn false. And sure enough, it did. Of course, since it is just JavaScript, you should be able to pull in most of the commands you know from JavaScript and run it that way. So you can create while loops and arrays and all sorts of things to allow you to have a very flexible interaction with the data change. And you can pull in as many points from as many different devices across the workspace as you'd like. This is a very powerful tool, but can take a little while to get used to. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I'd like to draw some comparisons between CSV files and auto data changes and commands that can be done on clients and masters. So let's go ahead and go up to the clients folder I made, and let's look at the 104 masters. In this folder, just like an auto data change, you could go to the individual device, right-click, commands, and create a command to put on that one specific device. And as you can see, the command is on the device, and then there is a reference node off that one individual sector. But very similar to auto data changes, you can actually go to the top level, like a folder, and right-click and do a command. Now, since we're at a folder level, it's showing us that we have commands for all the different protocols, but inside this specific folder, there are only 104 devices, so you can only create commands for 104s. We'll do another one and change the name. Now when I apply this, it will not only be put at the top level on the folder, but also be put down on every single 104 device underneath this folder. If you go even higher up in the tree and right-click commands, you'll see, since I have each device in its own specific folder, that I can do the commands across all the protocols. That being said, if I decided to come in here and do a general interrogation for 101, you'll only see the child nodes on the 101 devices and nowhere else through the workspace. This is a quick way to create commands across multiple masters or clients.